I'm Jessica Anne Pressler, and you've tuned into Your Traitor Within, a podcast that exposes the brutal truths of healing, self-discovery, and breaking free from relentless patterns of self-sabotage. Today's guest is Erika Fracassa, the creator of Delusional to Discerning, a platform dedicated to helping people make sense of confusing relationship dynamics and reconnect with their own clarity. After spending 15 years in a relationship that left her questioning her own perception, Erika now helps others move from confusion to discernment by breaking down real life patterns in a way that people can actually recognize and trust. Through her content, coaching, and growing online community, she provides the language and perspective that allows people to understand what they're experiencing and start trusting themselves again. I am so grateful to have Erika here today, and I want to thank her in advance for her vulnerability and courage as she speaks of her own Traitor Within story. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I do love that you do relate so well to people or that people can relate so well to you
Thank you.
because we as a community, are speaking out to people who have been confused, have been in a relationship, which, at least for me, it was all confusing. I spent so much time and effort trying to figure out what was happening in my relationship. It
Yes.
didn't make sense. There was so much cognitive dissonance, so much,
Yes.
um, you know, uh, just and you speak, I don't know how you were, but I know with me, you call your girlfriends, this is what happened. Does it make sense to you? And everyone's trying to figure this out. And of course, we have
Hmm.
no idea. And which is why I love the education piece of what we do,
Yeah.
educating people on the mind of a narcissist and what their manipulation is, because it's
Hmm.
important to know. But
Yes.
there's two pieces of that, and that is understanding the partner, the manipulator, the master manipulator, even,
Yep.
and what we do as well. Not to blame the victim, but understanding one's traitor within, what they
100%.
keep us in a situation. Not to say that manipulation alone doesn't do it, but many times we'll have very successful in every way, I'll say women, but people who
Mm-hmm.
enter these relationships really okay with almost everything that's going on, but yet become victims of a narcissist.
Yep.
And you can take the most educated person who understands even what we teach them. So that's where the traitor within piece comes in, because you can't
Yeah.
change another, you can change yourself. Does any of this
Exactly.
resonate with you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's kind of what I preach to my children too. It's like
Mm.
you can't change other people's opinions, perceptions, actions, emotions, but what you can do is change yourself and how you respond. And I feel like that has been this, silver lining in a way of like what I've learned is not everyone is who they are. And we are projecting our own capabilities and, you know, um, our own capabilities, but also our own characteristics and traits onto other people and expecting the same in return in that back. And yeah, I think it's taken me a very long time to get to the point where I have to not see, you know, folks and everyone in this rose-colored glass and have that discernment now. And
Let me
yeah, it's
let me ask you a
been
question about that, because
crazy.
I also had to get to that place. Did you feel a grieving process there? Because I did, because I really did think everyone was, meant well for a while.
Yes,
And it was
yes,
sad
it
for me.
rocks your soul,
Mhm.
and I feel like a lot of that is because there's certain characteristics and traits within us as victims, if you will,
Mhm.
um, that are very common on the other side of the narcissistic personality disorder. And that's why it is a personality disorder, because it's a personality of traits.
Mhm.
And, you know, each one of us emphasizes, a lot of empathy, accountability, inner work, looking within to help the situation. Like, how can I do better? How can I? And I think it got to the point of this radical acceptance to say, I can't change them. I can only change me. And I think that was a big grieving part, knowing that I had had 15 years of trying that didn't end up in the way that I wanted it to. And so I
There was,
grieved what could have been.
right, of course. And there was nothing you could have done to change that.
No,
Because
and it took a long time to accept that.
someone once told, right, and that's the radical acceptance, which Dr. Ramani talks about a lot, but it's
Hmm.
key. And it's absolutely key because you have to let go of that.
Absolutely.
What I could have done differently. Someone once told me, I didn't listen, mind you, because it was a long time ago, a
Sure.
priest actually, and that was don't ever fall in love with potential,
Oh, yeah.
you
Oh,
know?
my gosh.
And it hits, but I didn't listen to it. I mean, I heard it when he said it, but then it got,
Yeah.
you know,
I
but
think we're all very logical and capable, smart, educated people in these relationships. And I think a lot of us is really truly believing that they are also the same. Kind of what we talked about at the top of the call is like we are projecting our own capabilities and possibilities onto other people that are clearly not in the same caliber of this inner work and like inner reflection and taking ownership and accountability. And I think radical acceptance is the hardest stage of the system that I, teach, because logic wants to talk you out of it.
Mhm.
Your heart wants to talk you out of this radical acceptance. Like, what if they change? What if they leave and, the next person gets the better version that I worked so hard to build with? And
That keeps you stuck in
yes,
healing. You can't,
yes,
if you can't get through that, you can't move forward and
yes,
heal.
yes. That's the hardest part. And I think it was the hardest part for me because you can have the awareness, you can have the understanding, the language, but like until you actually accept, you're never going to be able to get over into the next phase of like implementation and living and trusting yourself again. Because yeah, it's a loop, it's a cycle. You get stuck in
Mhm.
it a bazillion times over.
And part of that acceptance, which is also very hurtful, is they didn't love you like we know love.
I know that
They may
they
have felt the high, because I do think, like at the beginning, when they're in that crazy state of
love
love
bombing.
bombing, I think they're feeling it. They may interpret that as love because they get a high. I think maybe not everybody, but they get a
No,
high of mirroring what they get. The high they're getting is how you feel about them,
exactly.
because they can't hold on to that for very long. But for that
Yes,
moment, if you're in La La Land and you're feeling what you're feeling about them, then and what they see in that mirror is what they want to see. Then they're getting that high. They could be interpreting that as love. That's their love, but it's what you
yes.
can do for me. It's how I
It,
feel because of how you're making me feel, or whatever the mirroring is.
yeah.
But in radical acceptance, when you realize that they don't love like we love, they don't love with that heart, that wanting to give, to them,
It's
like
like that emotional capacity.
that
They
inner,
are just not emotionally capable
right,
of loving that deeply and intimately beyond fueling supply or value add. And
correct.
it's so self-serving. And
Hmm.
that is another thing that you grieve is like, was it all a lie? And your logic will talk you through, no, 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 we had this great moment then. And then in hindsight, you kind of look back and you're like, well, yeah, maybe that was great, but also now I see the pattern. Now I see it so clearly as to why it was great because of the role I played and what I fulfilled for them. And yeah, I think falling in love with the potential, in that fantasy, in that version of them that is not true in that love bombing phase.
Hmm.
It's like you don't realize that you're not just attached to the person, you're
Hmm.
attached to their potential because
Right.
they gave you that glimpse at the
That's
very
exactly
top.
right. I used to call it the carrot. I was attached to their potential and the carrot, which to
Yes.
me was their
The
potential.
dangle.
Yeah.
Yes.
And those moments that got to me, I used to say I got so low in my expectation of the moment, I couldn't even get under do the limbo. I couldn't even get under it
Like,
because
yeah,
it
I
gets
know
lower and lower
exactly.
too. You're no longer going for that initial high. You're going for this.
Well, and your bar gets, yeah, I say this is funny, but like, being in the dating scene again and trying to, I joke, but my bar is so low. I'll
Mhm.
be like, well, he has a job. He,
Big.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's so low.
You
And
like chocolate, I like chocolate.
yeah, yeah. He's breathing. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
I
but I
just,
get it.
yeah, it's sad because we are so worthy of
Right.
so much more than that bar.
Mhm.
And it's building that self-trust and that self, love back, to say, I love myself like up to here and more, and whoever gets this is worthy of me. And it
Well,
sounds very elitist and putting yourself on the pedestal, but I think you have to talk yourself into that delusion, if you will, because without it, it's so easy because of the conditioning that we endure to go right back to that low bar and say,
and
well, that's
that
enough.
conditioning, and it is conditioning. They condition us
Oh, yeah. Oh,
to,
yeah. They study.
they study and then
They
condition us.
study us.
And
Yeah.
next thing you know, we're like grabbing at little bits.
Hmm. Those
So
little carrots.
right. Now you said that we're, going back to self-love or going back to the place. Well, what if we never even had that? What if in our childhood we never felt that love? So then we were searching for it. I
I
mean, we're very
think,
vulnerable at that time for these type of folks out there.
oh, yeah. And I did a post about this because it was kind of like, we can play this role of like trying to get the person to understand and agree, and doing the inner work and changing who we are because we think we're the problem, all this stuff. But at the end of the day, it's a relationship for a reason. And we sought out this person for a reason. And it's because they filled the gaps that we might have been searching for our whole life,
Hmm.
for that glimpse, that little moment. They study us, but they also they look for that vulnerability. They look for folks in transition. They look for all of these different
Hmm.
aspects. And once they have it, they own it, and then they use that against you. And so I found that through my healing, I never truly loved myself fully.
Hmm.
And I was looking for this person to come save me and fill in those gaps. And when they're feeding you this confabulated fantasy of
Hmm.
their own delusion, it's easy to believe. And then you're chasing that high for years. And
Hmm.
unless you have that awareness, unless you understand, like at the very forefront, what you're getting into, and if it becomes a pattern, and how to remove yourself from the cycle. Because, you know, someone like me, I was in it for 15 years and didn't really wake up until the last four.
Will you mind talking a little bit about your story?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I hate that it's, I always say, like on my platform, I'm sorry you were late, right? Because it's horrible. And you build a following of this community that has gone through something so niched and similar. And it's almost like this textbook of repeat. Everyone feels very understood. I'm just so happy we found each other, but I'm sorry it's under these
Yeah.
circumstances.
Right.
For years, I lived in a relationship that left me disconnected from my own reality.
Hmm.
I wasn't dealing with obvious abuse, it was confusion.
Hmm.
Like you said, cognitive dissonance,
Hmm.
constant self doubt, feeling like something was deeply off while simultaneously convincing myself it wasn't bad enough to leave.
Hmm.
And I think after years of rebuilding my relationship with myself through therapy, after I had my third child, I kind of like woke up. He was born on 11/11, and that's always been my angel number. It was almost like if you have faith, like someone in the higher power was
Hmm.
using that day to be like, Erica, wake up, you're not happy. Like
Hmm.
you'd rather be alone than in this room feeling alone with someone there? So I went back to therapy, and I started rebuilding myself. I've done a lot of education, nervous system work, deep pattern recognition. And I just realized how many people were living in the exact same fog I had been, and silently questioning themselves while trying to hold everything together. And
Hmm.
that's what, led me to create Delusional to Discerning. I actually was doing talk therapy, and through my healing, it was video therapy where you kind of say your own healing and journey in a video journal, if you will. Like you record yourself. And at first, it was very strange, but it was just part of, I had to hear it from my therapist, but then I also had to hear myself say it.
Hmm.
And that was the first time I kind of woke up, in the healing. And I started recording myself. I had like 40 videos, let's say. And then
Mhm.
in January of this year, I posted like, I don't know, 30 or more all in one day with no hashtags, no captions, just posted them on Instagram. And, next thing you know, it's like the comments, the following, I feel so seen and understood. And it was almost like I had this door that was open. Like I endured and lived what I went through to now help someone else see these patterns sooner. And I haven't looked back. It's been wonderful, but also so sad, like
Mhm.
it's sad to know that so many people relate when you
Mhm.
really truly feel like you're the only one in the world going through it.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. I didn't realize that. So you really let people see your journal, basically,
Yes.
your deepest,
Yes.
most vulnerable moments, and people
Yeah.
related to it, and it connected you with them or them with you,
Yeah.
and
Like,
it
yeah.
allowed people to feel seen because, like, as you said, it's devastating to realize other people have felt this, but we are far from alone. And
Yes.
yeah,
I think sometimes that's all you need is to feel understood, validated, and that you're not delusional and that you're not crazy. Like,
yeah, I think that's key too,
yeah.
because that's the questioning, piece, as you said before, how with the feeling of confusion,
Yeah.
because things don't, I don't think no people can possibly understand that have not been in these relationships, but you truly do live in confusion because they want you to, because it doesn't make sense. What they do does not make sense.
Right.
It
And
doesn't.
it's a strategy to keep you confused because then you're never truly seeing the reality of what it is.
Mhm.
Like it gets to a point where I had to start journaling, not through video, but when I was married, right after a moment. It's like this hypervigilance of intense
Mhm.
adrenaline to write everything down exactly as I remember it. And I remember having conversations where it's like a third eye view of someone looking at me, and I'm note taking in my head, like, okay, I can't remember that, and then after writing it all down, and then saying, this really hurt me when you said this. And he's like, I didn't say that.
Right.
That's not, you heard differently. You're delusional. You're
Mhm.
delusional. He would call me that all the time.
Mhm.
And I'm like, no, I know I wrote it down, but then I start thinking, well, maybe I did
Or it's your
not hear it
perception,
right.
not real.
Yeah,
Right.
or that's your perception of events. And I think that's another huge learning curve and like healing part of my journey is being like, I don't need to prove to anyone what my perception of life and events are.
Right.
If I perceive a moment that everyone think it is joyous and harmonious, and I perceive it as like this horrible, tragic day,
Mhm.
regardless of what's real or not, I'm gonna trust myself enough to trust my perception of the events and not confabulate them into something that is not, and just like it's facts and I don't have to prove that to anyone. I think that was the hardest thing because when you're looking for that self-validation through your partner or friends and they're telling you that it happened a different way,
Mhm.
it's easy to say, well, yeah, I trust you, like I
Mhm.
guess you're right. And I trusted him. I just truly trusted that he had my best interest in mind. And yeah, it made me feel crazy, absolutely crazy. I was spinning and I felt chaotic and manic at times. Like it really messed with me and put me into a lot of bad habits, depression, anxiety, all the things. So it's not just the relationship itself in that confusing state, it's your mental health that really suffers, like
I
compounded with that consistent
Yeah.
confusion. Confusion.
I and I think it's really important that when people do seek help, they seek help with therapists that understand this
Oh yeah.
and work with the body and all that as well, but understand trauma, understand what narcissistic traits are and how it affects you, and understand
Yes.
because I personally went when I was in the midst of my last relationship, I went to a therapist. Actually, it was a psychiatrist. I went there because was, I had wanted to die by suicide. And I wanted to
Mm,
die by suicide because I didn't see a way out of the relationship. That was the
yeah.
only way I saw it out. Like, which is, from the outside perspective, is crazy. You just divorce, you leave, right? And I didn't understand, that was not in my idea of what to do.
Yes.
So I was sent to a psychiatrist who immediately said I was depressed, which wasn't. I mean, I was depressed in reaction. I was anxious in a reaction to what was going on, but I didn't have a biological, separate
Sure.
from
Yes.
depression. And and then the focus was nothing, was not on the marriage at all. It was not on the what was happening. No one was trying to have me discuss that. It was all
The,
my fault.
the diagnosis.
Right. I
Yeah.
was the fault. I was given a lot of medication and I was told I was depressed and I was told this is it. And it just, and it helped my ex also because I looked like,
They fueled it.
now it's the
Yeah.
story. They
Yes.
fueled it. And now the story is she's crazy.
Yes.
D, you're crazy. You're depressed. You're anxious. This is your fault. You almost
Yeah.
died. I have to worry about you. And, this whole story. And I don't even know what he was telling other people, but I know he was.
Yes. Same
And
thing happened to me.
right. And that's how therapists can actually make things worse.
Yes. You have to really, not just go in to it knowing what you want to get out of therapy, because some people don't. They have no idea. You go and you're just like,
Right.
I'm lost.
Mhm.
And you don't want to be clinically diagnosed or clinically seen. You really want to tell your story and help them piecemeal it. I think that's why my therapist, I had seen a couple, but it just didn't click. I just didn't feel it in my intuition and gut that it was the right fit. And that's fair and fine, right? But like finding mine, I remember it came in, I was like breastfeeding, I was just a mess and I'm crying. And she and I talked for 2 hours in the initial session. And she goes, I want you to go home and watch this show on HBO called Fleischman's in Trouble. It's with Claire Danes and the actor from the Facebook movie. I don't know his name. But it's about this relationship. In the first part of the movie is all his perspective. And you don't even know that in the second, you think that it's just a show going on. But the second part of is the same exact moment and sequence of events from the first part, but from her perspective. And
Mhm.
it changed my life. Like back to that perception piece. It's like you're allowed to experience the same thing, but also
Mhm.
take it and have a different perception. And I think that's when we feel crazy. And when they're studying us at the very beginning,
Mhm.
they, oh, that's your anxiety talking, like using that as fuel to talk yourself into this confusion state again. To say,
Mhm.
like, you're so negative, that's probably, your depression talking, or why are you so, like, why are you coming at me on this all the time? Like, that's just you being anxious. It's not even a big deal. Like, using those
Mhm.
diagnoses
Mhm.
instead of having that discernment to say, well, maybe I'm depressed, maybe I am anxious, but I know
Mhm.
my perception of events, and I'm not going to let you fuel the loop by saying that's just my anxiety talking. Fair, maybe, but I also don't really care what you say or what your perception is because I trust myself enough to know that no, this doesn't sit right with me, and it's not just anxiety, it's actually just wrong, and it's
Mhm.
not healthy or normal, so it's yeah, I would highly recommend finding someone and making sure that that person understands and doesn't try to take away from your story and your perception and just clinically use you as this, let's give you some medication and band-aid it over. You have to get to the root cause.
Right. So let's go a little bit to the traitor within because
Okay.
um and I'm going to flip it a little bit first because you have three children. So I'm assuming because you said there's certain ways you're teaching them is that you want to change you want them to behave differently. You want them to to see things differently than you have.
Sure.
And the whole
Yes.
thing about intergenerational trauma and not wanting to pass things on. I certainly was a big motivation for me
Hmm.
to move forward and heal.
Hmm.
So I do believe that most of us do have this traitorous part of us that can pop up at different places in our life. And I do believe that a perceptive narcissist will use that traitor
Hmm.
and use it in their manipulation. Do you feel that you had a traitor that was um, a part of a traitor within in you that gave them fuel or?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to that lack of self-love.
Hmm.
Um, I was very insecure. I was very codependent. I did not have any self-trust. So I was like my traitor within me was giving up my autonomy to this person as if they were me in my soul. I let them identify with myself more than I identified with myself. I don't know the word for it, but I literally didn't have a mind and heart of my own. I did, right? Like in one box, but it always got overwritten by their perception and their, identity or whatever. And so they would just, I had no self autonomy. Like I had no inner ownership of my own counsel. Like I was just I've kind of been like that my whole life. You get stereotypes as a kid, the ditzy, the forgetful, like whatever. And I just aligned myself with those traits
Hmm.
and I accepted that as who I was. And I mean, I always did really well in school. I'm very bright, but it was like, I'm just going to align myself with this, even if I don't feel like it's 100% true, because other people have my best interest in mind. I don't know how to describe it as like a word. Like, how would what I just described, like, how would you perceive what I just kind of talked through? Like, I didn't love myself. And so I let someone else take
Well,
ownership.
if you felt, did you feel that way as a kid also, as a
Yeah.
child?
Yeah. It's like always proving myself to be loved.
Can you tell me a little bit about your dynamics as a child? What was?
Sure. My family is wonderful. My mom and my dad, I had a wonderful childhood, but my mother, I think there was a lot of obsession I had with her. She's my mom, and she is not the most maternal, I wouldn't say. I think she would even say that. But I think as a child, that's what I needed. I wanted her to hold me, love me, tell me everything
Mhm.
was going to be okay. And at times that happened, right? But I kind of conditioned myself to be like, okay, but if I am obedient and quiet and do well in school and perform in my sports, like they're going to love me more. And whether it was intentional or not, that's just how my subconscious was wired
Mhm.
to prove that I am worthy and deserving of love through my value add and my output and my achievements. And I think that's just how I was conditioned throughout my life. It was overextend, overdo, like
Mhm.
be the most prepared person in the room, to the point where it actually sent me to the hospital in my marriage. But I think that is kind of what it is. Like my inner child just
Right.
having to prove worthiness of love.
Okay, so this is how the traitor's formed. The traitor usually is formed in childhood. I believe every child should feel safe. It should be an emotional
Yes.
safe place to be, but not all children are. And it doesn't mean there's bad parents. You can have this great, great parents, but for some reason the child's not feeling safe. They're not feeling loved enough. They're not feeling, maybe they're fearful that if they because they're not feeling loved enough or they're seeking more love or more approval, that maybe they'll be abandoned one day. Sometimes,
Yes.
that's usually the case, base of most of us. But
Hmm.
so we work really hard to make sure that we're loved and we're not going to be abandoned.
Yes.
And we perform that way. And this works as a child. It's not ideal, but as a child, your parents are still there. You don't have the choice. You can't just say, okay, I'm out of here. I'm going to go find new parents.
Yes.
So you do your best in that situation. And maybe it does make you feel a little better because you feel like at least you're doing something. You're working really hard. Your mom's going to love you. She's not going to get rid
Right.
of whatever it is. Okay. Then we take that part that we learned in childhood, which kind of worked, or we didn't have a choice. It was the best we could do. And we take it and we plop it onto other relationships. And in this situation, let's just say it's on with your husband, your relationship there with your husband. So now, because of this, you may have some internal fear that they're not going to love you the way that you want to be loved, or which he couldn't, by the way.
Yeah,
Or
exactly. That's the irony in all of it.
right, and that was not your fault. It wasn't your
Yeah,
fault either as a child.
right,
Has not been your fault. The way that they react towards you is not your fault.
right.
But it feels like we want to have some sort of, do whatever we can so not to be abandoned, right? Or whatever we
Yeah. It's
and
like a
what
sense of control over it.
or trying
Yeah,
because you don't because
exactly.
they're their own people. And but we do things in order from what we learned from messaging and modeling as a child, and just the way we learn. And we take those coping mechanisms, which did something for us as a child, we put them into the other places, like in this relationship, and it's not working because there was
Right.
nothing you could do that could work. And
Exactly.
so for me, part of my traitor kept me in relationships longer because I was part of what I was taught to do is you work and you work and you work, and it is your job to make it better. It is your job, and it's your job to look the other way. It is your job to make excuses for what they're doing.
Exactly.
It's your job, and it's all the stuff I was taught in my childhood. I was taught because my mother did it with my dad. I was taught because this is how I could keep safe, but it didn't work in my adult years in my relationship with romantic ones. It didn't really show
Yeah.
up anywhere else, because it made me stay. It made me take blame. It made me look the other way. They were cheating. I looked at, um, in order, but the end result was, I thought this is how I stay safe. This is how they don't leave me. Even
Right.
so, you may know that you're not happy. And I even believe that if I left and they let me, they were abandoning me. Like it was this
Yes.
whole, so that's how they show up.
Yeah, I think you're echoing exactly what I was trying to articulate.
Hmm.
I did hypnotherapy
Hmm.
um, as well, and I don't remember this at all. I was actually very skeptical of hypnosis, but it was recorded, and I was under hypnosis, and she was talking me to understand like what my biggest fear was. I was actually having panic attacks prior to my firstborn going to preschool, and I was like, "This is not okay." And my friend recommended maybe hypnotherapy to figure out like why are you having panic attacks about your 3-year old going to like half day preschool. Turns out my biggest fear was being alone and being abandoned, being left out, not feeling like a part of something, not feeling worthy.
Hmm.
And, now that you're speaking towards the traitor within, it all makes sense. That was my inner child, like screaming, because I knew I was safe and cared for and loved as a child, but it wasn't, I'm not sure why. I'm still trying to figure out why I interpreted that like other people, like my siblings were loved more than I was. Or, it's just this subconscious conditioning that you kind of embody, but a lot of that just comes from a lack of self-love. And that's probably, what happened throughout my childhood. And then I took that into my marriage, and I wasn't about to give up because
Hmm.
I knew if I tried harder, I always figured out a way to make it work.
Hmm.
And then until it doesn't, until you radically accept that you have done everything in your power, you're
Hmm.
still not happy. And, I had these moments that I, had proof of things
Hmm.
that I could have just walked away, but instead, yeah,
Hmm.
looked the other way. And then when I finally left, it was this minuscule moment. It wasn't even anything catastrophic.
Yeah,
It
that
was like the
straw,
straw.
right, is always so fascinating to me because it usually is nothing compared to there's
Oh,
so many bigger moments.
it was nothing because 3 months prior was something horrible and I still stayed. And then just one day that something happened, he ruined it, whatever it was. And I just said, I'm done. I left not even a month later.
Well, the truth is, it isn't that moment. It's everything
Oh,
that.
it's death by a thousand cuts. Yeah.
But it always, it is a fascinating though, because it really usually is a small thing.
Tiny little thing
Yeah,
compared,
for that
right?
for that walk that you
Yeah.
made. Did you ever feel wanting to go back and had to fight it, or were you just done at that point? Was that just it?
Ooh, that's hard. I think in that 1 month time frame of like saying I'm done versus like leaving,
Mm-hmm.
I wavered. He didn't fight for me,
Mm-hmm.
on his own. He didn't really give me any response for 2 weeks. And I remember telling my sister-in-law, I'm like, I feel like I need to at least give him a chance to work towards some non-negotiables, like to get me to stay. Like if I give you a list of non-negotiables, like this must be. And it was things like go to therapy and anger management, like whatever. It wasn't anything like I didn't think anything too catastrophic or
Mm-hmm.
outrageous. And I think that was my wavering was like, okay, I am dead set. And he didn't fight for me. So now I'm going to give him an opportunity to fight for me by providing him a list of these non-negotiables instead of him coming to me and owning, I hurt you and I take responsibility and I'm sorry, whatever. I never received that. I instead had to give him something. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember kind of thinking in that, like, what am I doing? I'm fueling it again. I'm enabling this like lack capacity back onto me and owning this that I have to manage and get. So, anyways, I think there was a brief moment. But, yeah, I promised to do this list. Yes, of course. And there's no follow up. And I wasn't about to follow up. And so I
Mm-hmm.
had my answer.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I've never looked back since.
Okay.
It's wild though. I thought I would think about him a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what also happens sometimes is because you've done really the back and forth in your head during the marriage, like because a lot of things, as you said, happened like X amount of months before it was much worse. So you're still potentially, even so, there's a trauma bond. I'm not saying there wasn't, but there is that sometimes if that aha moment at that last one, and him not fighting for you
Yes.
may have just been enough
I
to,
think that was,
I'm done.
I think I wanted one last piece of clarity
Hmm.
and I wanted to give him an opportunity. Like I couldn't fathom, like, I think he also wasn't really taking me seriously.
Hmm.
Um, because he would be like, I'm blindsided. Like this happened so fast. And I'm like, how are you blindsided? I have documentation of when I've tried to, talk to you,
Hmm.
dates from journaling, like, oh, with him about this issue here, wrote him an email on this day, like there was no reason for him to be blindsided, but
I'm
everyone
glad you
in our life was.
I'm glad you wrote stuff down for you. Not that you needed to hand, because handing to him would probably be a disaster. He could have hurt you with.
Oh, no, yeah, no.
But for you,
It
so
was my
whoever
own
questioned,
arsenal.
yeah, it's for your own head.
It's my own validation
Yeah,
to
yeah,
say, like, well, he's blindsided. I could easily, if I wasn't in that, stage, I could have easily been like, well, maybe I didn't go about it right.
right.
Maybe I am blindsiding him. But I like knew it was just this, he was trying to confuse me again type of thing.
Yeah, most likely he was gaslighting you, and if it wasn't
Hmm.
doing that, then he was protecting himself by forgetting.
Yeah.
He had
Like,
his
or,
own
he's the
mechanism,
victim,
right?
reverse victim
And they believe it.
offender.
I mean,
Yes.
what people have to understand, which I know that that most of the time their delusions, they believe them.
Oh,
They need to
wholeheartedly.
in order to not know the truth about themselves. So
Yeah.
they,
They have to live in that confabulated fantasy of their own delusion because if they face anything outside of that,
hmm
they don't have the emotional capacity to even absorb or have an inkling of alignment in that reality. So they just stay in this box and
they
they are
build,
so dead set on that being. So if you say anything that contradicts that fantasy that they built up in their head,
right. It's a
it's
fortress,
war. Yes.
which goes back to your, about confusion,
Yes.
because it does not make sense. What they say does not make sense.
Yes.
But when you understand that they had to build this in order to protect their shame and protect their truth and protect, what they want people to see, then it helps you understand that it's not even personal. It
No,
feels
it's
personal,
not.
but it's
It's
not personal.
not.
You're
It's
just
for
in
their own ego
you're
inflation.
I used to say I was pulled into their stuff. I was pulled into their chaos.
Hmm.
It wasn't really about us. We were just one of the many people probably that will be their mirror or will be their, punching bag or will be their, we're just another prop almost in their
Yeah,
world.
we are. Just another source of supply to fuel the ego up because the truth is their ego is so small. Their self-esteem is so small. Their self-love is, there is none. And it's so they live in this world of chaos and
Mhm.
fantasy that they have to stay in that because if they step out of it and accept that their ego is small, and their big
Mhm.
puff chest, is all a lie or just a facade or a mask, they don't have the emotional capacity to hold that. So they just stay in this use of supply like us to fuel their ego. And
Mhm.
that confabulated fantasy is just boasting that ego up a little bit higher and higher every time. And if
Mhm.
you try to counter that,
Mhm.
no way, you're never going to win.
Do you remember the first time you were knocked off that pedestal?
Yeah. I don't remember it like as a moment, but it was very early on.
Mhm.
Um, in hindsight, through therapy, I go weekly for years, like years. And I think you have to build a timeline to really understand how you got to where you are.
Mhm.
And I remember her telling me, like, okay, so walk me back. When did you meet him? I was like, well, I knew him in college. I remember I didn't really like him in college. And she's like, oh, okay, but you married him. I think it's like one of those things. I met him in a very transitional phase of my life. I was 24. I had just gotten out of a very long relationship. I was living in Chicago and I had no money. I was just kind of lost, like young in this, early 20s, don't really understand self identity yet. And he sought me out. He knew who I was, and we all had the same friend group. And I was apprehensive at first. I was like, I know who you are. Like, I had no interest, but he was very persistent and
Mhm.
charming.
Mhm.
And, on paper, was very safe and secure. And I remember thinking, okay, well, I'll give him a chance. And then it just became so intense, so fast, like
Mhm.
destined, right? Like this fantasy.
Mhm.
I knew, we were supposed to meet, blah, blah. About 3 months in, he convinced me that I was going to go in debt if I still lived in my apartment that I had just gotten so I could walk to work. I was studying for the LSAT and working in a law firm. And I was so proud. It was my first apartment on my own. Somehow he convinced me that I was going to be in debt and that being in debt that early in life was, not an option. It's so bad for your credit, whatever. I was 24 years old.
Mhm.
And so he convinced me to move in with him and sublet my apartment. He convinced, it's so funny to even say it aloud. He convinced me so hard, like, we're together anyways, we're going to be together. And I think that was the moment once he got me in that
Mhm.
apartment that I fell right off the pedestal without even knowing.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
fought all the time. Like, it just switch. Like,
Mhm.
while I was in it, I was so confused because I was like, wait, that's not who you are. But I was like
Mhm.
trapped in this apartment and no way out
Mhm. Mhm.
and just fighting for him to get back who he was a month ago, 2 months ago.
Mhm.
And I fought for that version for 14 more years and 15 more years.
And it's exactly what we all do. And it sounds someone who doesn't understand, who's someone who hasn't been here, it sounds crazy,
It
right?
sounds crazy.
Like it doesn't matter who he was, a year ago, because that's not who he is now.
Yeah.
But it's what we all did the same thing.
Yeah. We chased the high.
Hmm.
We chased that
It,
version
it,
of them
it,
that was
it's,
never real.
it's like a drug. I mean, I
Oh, it
felt like
is.
it was addicted. I was addicted to the carrot. I wasn't really addicted to him. I didn't know that, but I was addicted to the carrot. I was
Yes.
addicted to the way it was. It wasn't even that person.
No. I said that at the top of this. Like I was addicted to the potential of
Yeah.
him.
Right.
that I saw once. And
Once.
like on paper, everything else made sense. He came from a wonderful family, all very successful. All of his siblings are very successful, and he worked for his family's business. Like everything was very, I don't know. And then it's like, well, this can't be true. My perception of this, and because everything else makes sense.
Let me ask you a question about his family. Did they protect him? Did they like how did they understand who he was? What was that piece?
That's a really hard part for me. I loved his family as if they were my own. And when I stopped being the role that they loved me for in the relationship,
Hmm.
providing, he never brought an income, so I made him look good to them. Like everyone, we were good because I held it all together.
Hmm.
And then the moment I chose myself,
Hmm.
how could you do this? You know, um, I loved you like my own, I'll never understand, like all this stuff. And the funny part is, when I wrote him the letter saying I was leaving and I was done because I could not have a conversation with him, I learned that I had to write my words out because I
Hmm.
didn't want to be twisted. So I wrote him this 8-page letter. And in the same notion, I wrote a letter to his family, to his parents, and I sent it to his dad. And I begged them not to enable, not to help. He needs help, I said. I'm like, he needs help. Like he's not going to be okay. I know this. And it was like I loved him. He's the father of my children. I hated him, but I also wanted him to be okay for their sake. And I begged his family, and I am still the problem, like to them, that I no longer am serving that purpose and role that
Hmm.
they conditionally loved me for. And I think that was another part that I've had to grieve. It's like they
Hmm.
didn't truly love me for me. They
Hmm.
loved the role that I played in the dynamic
Hmm.
for him. And that
Hmm.
sucks.
Yeah, and that's an important piece to speak about because we talk about grieving the relationship and what the dynamic you have with that person, but it's much bigger than that many times.
Yes.
And
It's a ripple effect of grief. You grieve the nuclear family, you grieve the relationship of what could have been, you grieve the ideation of you having the second family. In actuality, they didn't truly love you for who you are.
Mhm.
Like they know me. It's been 15 years of
Mhm.
me sacrificing and doing and loving their son. And
Mhm.
even with the truth of his infidelity, of his, you know, all this other stuff, like proof, proper documented proof,
Mhm.
that doesn't hold any candle to what I'm doing now and me leaving. And it's heartbreaking. It absolutely is heartbreaking. I remember the first birthday that came and went, and I didn't get one happy birthday.
Mhm.
And it's like, I don't need them to say happy birthday, but I think I knew in that moment, like,
But it tells a story, even if
hmm
you don't use the words, by them
yeah,
not doing it, they're making a statement.
yeah.
So,
And I confided in his sister a
mhm.
lot for years prior. And
Mm.
she would be like, oh, Erika, like I felt heard and understood. And
Mhm.
I get it. I'm not taking it personally.
Mhm.
It's, again, a radical acceptance of that's part of their family and you're going to have their back. And also, as a parent, there's a lot of shame probably that they'll
Mhm.
never admit.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's okay with me too. I remember his mom texted me and said, I've loved you like a daughter. How could you do this? And it took me a couple of days to respond, but I said, I am okay with you not understanding. Because
Mhm.
she said, I can't understand why you're doing this. And I said, I am okay with you never understanding. And I'm finally at peace with that. And we've
Mhm.
never talked since.
Oh.
It's heartbreaking, but
Mhm.
I think it's okay. I've accepted that
Mhm.
that love was conditional and I know I'm worthy of unconditional love. So,
And you don't know what he tells them.
yeah, and I
So,
don't care.
no, I know, don't care, but I'm just saying you just don't know. So,
No,
you
yo,
know,
or no,
you know,
I know he's painting me to be,
but you have to not care
I
because
just
you
don't.
have no control over it.
Yeah.
Your kids seeing them, is it like a regular traditional
My kid scene.
visitation? I mean, is that
Oh, yes.
true?
So we're 50-50 joint legal custody.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is kind of messy. Um, because I'm not getting into the weeds of the legality. There's a lot of, I guess, confusing, gaslighting and trying to write the script of like, we have a signed document that he is still in post-separation abuse, is real, and I'm learning this, is still confusing and gaslighting me into saying that he only signed that document so I could buy a house because I needed the free trader, agreement when I was buying my home. So it wasn't, there's a lot of things that I must have said, right? But that was not the reason why we had the separation agreement. But he's finding these cracks in the structure of the framework and he's using it to his advantage. And, you know, financial abuse. There's a lot of post separation abuse things that I'm going through right now. But yeah, he has always put on a good face of being a good dad. I don't think he's emotionally available, like he puts the mask on maybe to be, because I don't think he's capable of having that empathy and understanding, even with children. But he does a very good job showing up and putting on that face when he does have them. So I think that's enough for me. I think eventually they'll realize. And if they don't, that's fine. All I want is to be one stable, grounded,
Yeah,
consistent parent. And if
right.
they get two of them,
Mhm.
wonderful.
That much
But
better.
if not, at least they have
Yeah.
one.
And it's true, and it is true that when you have one, they have one safe place to be themselves, and where you're not saying, which I know you don't, terrible things about him as much as you may want to.
Oh, yeah. No,
Like,
it's
"Why do
hard.
you?" But but because you're keeping a safe place for them to
Yeah, and it's
be
not their fault.
and
They're too
honor.
young. They don't need to
Yeah.
hold or have
And
any ownership of
it
what
does make it,
happened.
but it does make a difference when they have one parent who, and you're saying he's holding it together for them right now anyway, at this
Yeah,
moment.
and I'll take it,
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, but if that ever changed, like I would be right there to pick it all up. So I'm good with how it is now. Yeah, it's hard. It's
Mhm.
hard, but you do what you got to do.
Mhm. And when you're working on yourself and when you're helping other people, are you
Yeah.
dealing with the traitor within? Are you trying to help people heal that piece of them?
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I'm very radically honest in my content, and I'm vulnerable and admit a lot of humility. And I messed up like bajillion times. I fueled the confusion loop. I didn't love myself. I was dependent on someone else to love me so I could feel loved. So I do pick out those pieces of that traitor of because everyone's traitor is probably different, but there's a lot of similarities and commonalities in our personalities. And so finding, the root cause of how you got yourself into this position and can't get yourself out. I think a lot of it is feeling not only healing that inner child and part of you and that traitor, but education through understanding of a pattern's a pattern. A
Mhm.
one instance is a one instance. Not everyone's perfect. There's going to be things, but if a pattern becomes a pattern, becomes a
Mhm.
pattern, and you can name it and see it and understand it, I
Mhm.
think calling that out is a lot of the work that I
Hmm.
I'm trying to teach and through my own mistakes. I even had an episode like, let my, can I swear?
Yes.
Okay, I said, let my fuck up be your lesson. Like I have these little, because I will be like, I took the bait.
Hmm.
I fueled the confusion loop. I fueled the endless conversation loop. I'll say that because in real time, as much knowledge as we can have,
Hmm.
it's really hard to separate yourself from emotion and trying to feel understood and feel validated. I would say 9.5 out of 10, I can say that's your perception, and I am not
Which is
willing
which is
to
fair,
part.
by the way.
Yeah.
Good
I
point.
mean, it used to be zero, so I'll take
Right.
it. But
Oh, that's huge.
we're human, and so I do admit a lot of that on my education, and just knowing that once you're healed,
Hmm.
healing is a practice. It's
Hmm.
you can say you're healed enough to leave, but every day I
Hmm.
have to work on not being triggered and brought in
Hmm.
because those tactics are still there and they're never going away. But once you become aware of them, that's what
Right.
I try to teach.
And I mean mindful when you find yourself reacting, mindful how you,
Yeah.
and then changing it. And it's like it's literally rewiring your brain. I mean, and you're dealing with
Oh,
mind, body, and soul. So it's not just your intellectually knowing something, then it's how to deal with your body.
yeah, you got to recalibrate 100%. And I think a lot of my healing also is the stored trauma in my body. So through
Mhm.
somatic and I've done, tapping and nervous system regulation and it's every day. It's a work. It's like yoga, it's a practice.
It's a practice. I like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're right. And I hope people don't get scared if sometimes they it shows up here and there because it doesn't mean it's going to be there. It's going to always be there.
Right.
I don't know if we ever get
It's,
rid of the traitor or we ever get rid of that. It's, but it's the daily practice, as you said.
yeah.
Well,
I mean, and two things can exist at the same time. Like, have you heard of family systems?
hmm.
The inner family system, it's like you can be happy and free and excited about life, but also sad and grieving at the same time. And I think through my healing, I couldn't live in the gray. It had to be black or white to me.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like holding those parts of me and saying, I hear you and
Hmm.
you're validated and okay. And I hear you and you're validated, okay. Those parts are the traitor and they can exist and will exist. It's just how loud one is over the other. And when you feel that traitor come up, having that discernment to say, I hear you, I get it, but we're not participating, and yeah, again, it's a practice because it happens
Right.
every day.
But exactly how you say it, because I want people to understand it is a part of you. So have compassion for it. And it was a part that's trying
Yes.
to help. It just doesn't help in the way that you need it anymore. So it's
Yes.
like, I got this now. You
Yes.
you helped me when I was younger, you helped, whatever, but it's not working anymore. I love you for trying. You're my protective part as you talk about
Yes.
family systems,
Hmm.
but you're not protecting me anymore. You're actually causing harm. So,
Yes. Yeah. Just talk to those parts of you.
right, exactly. Is there anything you want to share before we go?
Um, what I want to maybe to say is, reiteration of healing is not linear. Um, Grieving is not linear and moving on, nothing is linear, right? It's all a journey, it's all a practice. But what I've learned is to stay with myself a little bit longer
Mm-hmm.
in each moment of my life
Hmm.
has helped me build up this muscle of self trust and also build up this muscle of self love. Because when you're so quick to rely or that, have this dependency on someone, whether it's your partner, your mother, your friend, your brother, whatever, if you stay with yourself for a beat longer, that muscle will grow and grow and grow because you're flexing it and understanding and listening to your intuition and gut that's already there. It's a superpower. So just lean into that a little bit more. And I think when you can learn to love and lean into that, be a little bit longer, it'll never steer you wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Perfect.
it. Yeah.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for all that you do for so many people out
You're
there.
very welcome. Thanks for having me.
If you're interested in learning more about Your Traitor Within, grab the journal. Visit www.jessicaannpressler.com for more.